Pardon?
Did you start your moonflowers from seed?
Yes, tried to.
They're a booger because they are
I
hard.
know. I mean, I've soaked them in water and then pounded them, and I have scraped them with sandpaper. I've done all of that together. It's just, I don't know, don't have the touch. So we'll see what's going to do. Can you buy moonflowers as transplants?
I have, but I had a gardener friend that would grow them for me.
Oh, okay, okay. What was their secret?
I have no idea, and she's passed away, so I have not had
Oh,
I've not had moonflower for a couple years now, but I love it. It's one of my
yeah.
favorites.
That's one
Um,
of those things where you think, well, why didn't I ask?
yes.
Why didn't I inquire?
Problem is you don't think about it until, you don't know what you have till it's gone, and then you're like, oh my,
Exactly. Exactly.
that's a really good pick. I mean, and phew, they're, all of 6, 8 inches across.
Wow.
I mean, they're huge. I love them because you can almost watch them unfurl and pop open.
They have sort of a twist to them too, don't they? The bloom.
Hmm. Yeah.
Not that I've seen them in person, but
Yeah.
I have seen pictures of them.
Yeah. Oh, well, I get to look out my windows and I'm like, mostly cloudy.
Yours is mostly cloudy. Mine, it says
Yeah.
it's mo on my computer, it says I'm mostly sunny, but it does look a little cloudy out there.
Well, let me look at the other side. Oh, there's some big giant floofy clouds. The UVI is 6. I don't know what that means.
Well, it's
There. There's your weather report for today.
all right. 84, 57 and a half. Winds are light.
The trees are just kind of doing this. Oh, Deb Shoemaker. Well, they're starting to roll in.
You know who I haven't noticed? I saw her once, but Opal. Have you noticed her being in our classes?
She was the week before.
Okay, good. I saw her at one point.
Okay.
It wasn't last week, it was the week before last.
I saw Steve's here. He's one of yours, isn't he? Beckelheimer.
For some reason, Annette can't get the link. I could
Did
probably
she sign up
invite
for
her.
this month?
I could probably invite her in.
Oh, she sent it. She sent an email.
Let's see what I can do.
Let me send her the link because I type it about 1 billion times. tinyurl.com. You would think that I would, oops, oh, flash, June, H dub dub. Oops. Uh-oh. Did I turn off my,
Well, I forwarded her the new link. I don't remember if her name was in registration or not. So I went ahead and forwarded, you know what I'm trying to say.
yes, I did. And I won't send her the link. Oh, there's Marcia, one of mine.
How's Kelly Jackson today? He's silent.
I'm here, but I won't be here long. I've got it recording and then I've got to go. I've got another meeting in Fairview. So when you guys finished, I think it'll download to my computer automatically.
Okay.
The link in the original email doesn't work. That's how I
That's the second person, Annette, and then there was a person earlier today that asked me that. So
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure where the breakdown is, but I sent those. I sent it
Is
to
it the
both of them.
one that I sent this morning?
I don't know. Melissa, let us know. Because that's the one I used today. You can't do the weekly thing. You got to go the click here to join. There's a net.
Yeah. So I was going to say, in that little box where I tell them what it's coming up for today and all that, I just copied and pasted, what that looks like, because a lot of people have trouble finding it within the body of the letter.
The email.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't active. You had to actually get out of that little box and scroll down, or what for me is a little box, and
Yeah.
scroll down
For
to the
me, it's the
body of the letter
second.
to
Yeah.
get
It's
in.
the second link that comes in. It
Yeah.
was the May 30th email. Okay. I
May
wonder if it was the email when you signed up. I wonder because you get an email then, like, here's what you signed up for. I don't know. They're coming in hot and heavy. I'm gonna have to like I
May
need to
30th seems
splint on
like a
my
long
finger.
time ago.
The one today worked. And the trick is to do the click here to join blue link and not because I always get the join. Here's the always the second link. I can never remember. I'm glad you missed me last week. I missed you all. I really wanted to hear. What was the topic?
All right, we're up to 22 participants.
Plus one.
We're almost ready. If you folks remember that we will let Lori Bowling, she's our Boyd County Extension Agent for horticulture, we'll let her go through all of her presentation before we have question and answer. But if you think of a question and you want asked, type it into the chat box and we'll have someone read that out for you. It might be me or Amy today. Oh, no, Annette's here, isn't she?
She's here.
Yeah,
She came in. I'm
good.
here.
So, or you can always wait till the end and unmute yourself and ask your question in person.
Or if you can't remember, write it down.
Lori's program is being recorded and you will be able to find it at Kentucky Hort Council. No, sorry, Kentucky Hort News. And usually if you just Google, I hardly ever tell anyone to just Google something, but if you just Google Kentucky Hort News, it pops up pretty easily. So, and then Horticulture Webinar Wednesdays right there, and you'll be able to find the recording of today's program along with any handouts or anything else that we might have. Okay, it's 12:30. Is everybody ready? You ready, Amy?
Oh, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm just
All right. Well, I will go ahead and introduce Lori. I feel like I already have. We have Lori Bowling. She is from Boyd County Extension Office. She is the agent for horticulture. And Lori and I actually went to school together at Eastern Kentucky University. Had really good teachers and usually had a good time. So Lori, with no further ado, I am going to let you take it away.
All right. Thank you, Sharon. Yes, we went to school. That was just yesterday. That was just last year, Sharon, that we graduated, wasn't it? So today I'm going to talk to you all about moon gardening. A lot of people don't really consider gardening for plants that have aspects that they look for at night or in the evening. We usually garden so that we have, wonderful gardens to view during the day and to tend during the day and to enjoy, during the day, in the morning or in the afternoon. But you can actually garden and have those plants that you select for your garden. They'll be pretty during the day, but their main feature would show up more so in those evening and nighttime hours. So I have condensed this program down some. I was telling Sharon there was a lot more, or Amy one, there was a lot more. I could talk for days on plants, so I have to pare things down, and I know that we have a very limited time. So we'll go ahead and get started. So let me get my program going here. So just I put a few quotes here at the beginning. The moon is the accomplice of all things related to the heart. And when we're looking at moon gardening, we're looking at things that are dear to our hearts as gardeners, and that would be our plants. And the moon looks upon many night flowers. The night flowers see but one moon. So, our moon will project its light on many of our garden flowers and cause them to be very bright in those nighttime hours. But our flowers only get to see that one moon up there in the sky. And one of my really favorites is Everyone is a Moon and Has a Dark Side, Which He Never Shows to Anybody, by Mark Twain. Okay, so when we're looking at creating a moon garden, we want to, first of all, you need to take inventory of what you have, where you have a space to put a moon garden, or are you going to maybe redo one of your existing gardens and start incorporating more plants and flowers that would be more enhanced by the moonlight, more so than the daytime. But this is a really good example showing you just in those dusky evening hours, a moon garden. This one is, you can look at it and it's really pretty simple. They've used some flowers that have the white blooms as borders. And then they've used a few accent flowers in containers. And they have complemented those flowers with the luminaries that they have put around in their landscape. And we're going to talk a little bit about lighting as well that we can use to complement our moon gardens. But getting back to what is a moon garden? Like I said, it's basically we're creating a garden that comes to life at night. It is very fragrant usually, and the flowers that we choose, most of them will bloom during the night. There are some that we will choose that only bloom at night, believe it or not. They actually close up during the day, and then in the evening hours are when they will open up and we will smell their fragrance and be able to enjoy their beauty. Also, these plants will attract the nocturnal pollinators. And that's another thing that you may want to look at and consider, especially if you are really into gardening for our pollinators, which as gardeners, we should all be into that to some degree. But if you are really into making those pollinator gardens, this is another pollinator type garden that you could create with a twist to it that it is, it's a moon garden. But you want to choose plants, of course. You're going to create a garden that is going to glow in that moonlight. And moon gardens will usually offer a sensory experience with those scented flowers. It can also offer a sensory experience as far as the visual effect, like I said, with the glow, based on the plants that we choose. But the smell is a lot of what we are looking at too, or what I look at, I should say, on moon gardening. So why would we even worry with planting a moon garden? We've got all these plants. We do landscaping, we plant everybody's out planting their containers and putting their flowers out now. Why are we looking for another garden? We have to try to decide on what to plant and how to maintain it. Well, there's not enough hours in the day. I don't know about you all, but there's definitely not enough hours in my day. By the time I get home, usually in the evening, it is getting dusk. So a moon garden for me is very beneficial to be able to still enjoy my garden area, my landscape, to incorporate some of those night bloomers to be able to enjoy and relax and unwind in the evenings. It also allows you to experience your garden through different senses. Yes, there are nice fragrant flowers that we have in our daytime gardens, but some of these that are night bloomers, they are really fragrant and very heavy, heady scent and very sweet scented flowers. And also we get, like I said, we can experience a different viewpoint of the garden. Everything during the day in our daytime gardens, green and lush, we always look for that. But at night in these moonlit gardens, we're looking for the silvery, the light white colored, that glowing experience. And you can see things that go bump in the night. You get to experience these nocturnal pollinators. This is great for kids, great for grandkids, to have a moon garden and then to be able to sit out there in the evenings and watch and see what kind of insects start to visit the garden that you will not see during the day. So we first want to look at a planting location. When we plant our daytime gardens, again, we're looking at the hours of sunlight, 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. Well, our moonlight gardens, they do need the 6 to 8 hours of daytime sunlight to be able to grow properly. But we also need to locate those gardens in an area where it's going to have unrestricted moonlight in that peak growing and blooming season, so that they will really glow and really, be delightful in the evenings. But you also have to you have to have good drainage for almost all of these plants as well. So you want to make sure, again, that you are looking at daytime hours as well as those evening and nighttime hours for the moonlight. And then, as with any plant, you have to have good drainage. And you also probably want to do a soil test and check that pH and see if there's any nutrients that are needed in your soil as well. So looking at our garden design, the best thing that you can do before you start planting or, locating your garden is you can spend some time out there, where you think you might want to have that garden at. And determine, is that where you really want to sit in the evening hours? Is that where you want to have family time in the evening hours? Look at those different areas in and around your home that you are going to be more likely to want to spend time in during those evening and night hours. Because if you put it in a place that, it's going to look pretty and maybe it does have the right light that is needed, but it's not a place where you're going to want to sit in the evening, then you're not going to enjoy it. And we garden for our enjoyment more than anything, and to help us lower our blood pressure, for those of us that work a lot. You also want to consider, if you're locating it, in the backyard or off the back patio, are there windows nearby that maybe in the evening, even though it may be warm, you could crack those windows and enjoy that heady smell from those night blooming flowers wafting in through the windows? So you could enjoy it even from indoors as well as outdoors. And you also want to, look at, if I'm going to do a big garden, I want to do a big moon garden. Everybody has to look at the price. You always have to look at the cost of those plants. So you may want to start small as far as cost, and also to to be sure that that's where you want to locate that moon garden. So the first thing you could do in that first year is just start with a simple border, a border along a path or a border along an already existing landscape bed. You're going to take the landscape bed that you have that exists in that area, and you just want to incorporate some moon garden plants to make it have, aspects in the evening as well as the daytime. But start out small that first year. Make sure this is something that you're going to want to do. And buy the annuals. Don't invest in a lot of perennial or shrubs until you know for sure that's where you want it, and you're going to be able to spend time there and be able to enjoy it. It may be that you thought you wanted that garden there, and now you realize that's really not where you're going to spend your time. You may want to spend your time on the other side of the house, or that's where the grandkids seem to want to gravitate to. So that's where I want to be. When we look at selecting our plants, you want to look at more white plants. The more white blooming plants that you have, the more of a glow you're going to have in your garden, reflecting that moonlight. You also want to look at those white plants that some of them only open at night and they close during the day. You can have white plants that are open, all day and are open in the evening as well. They bloom all the time. But having some of those unique plants that only open at night, it adds another characteristic to your moon garden that is really neat. And that's where we get a lot of that fragrance, is from those night bloomers. You can also choose plants that have silver or white, or just silver and white, or just silver foliage, the silver and white variegated, because those will also reflect that moonlight and will show up really nice in the moonlight. And again, be sure to locate your garden where that moonlight will shine directly on your plants. It won't do you any good if you've put your garden on the side of the house where, most of the time in the summer, the moon doesn't really shine really bright in that area. Lighting. So used to, when we planted moon gardens, we didn't really think about lighting. We just were planting for the pollinators, those nocturnal pollinators, and for the glow. But with so many options for outdoor lighting now available, it really is wise to add just some small little light features. You can buy some of the little stake lanterns even at the Dollar Tree or the Dollar General store. You don't have to spend a fortune on lighting, and they can be solar powered. You just stake them in your flower bed and let them go, and it costs $2. So when it does, light bulb dies, you can replace it with a minimal cost. But you're choosing plants, of course, that's going to give you that glow. So if you add that soft lighting, it actually creates more of what we call that ambiance to your evening setting. And it gives it that nice, warm, homey feeling, and a place where you really gravitate to, and you want to be there, and you want to enjoy that. Now, with that being said, the one thing that I forgot to put in this presentation real quick is, and I get this question a lot. Well, I sit outside in the landscape and all I do is get eaten by mosquitoes. And that can be an issue, especially when you have the lights. You can have that mosquito issue. So you may want to incorporate some of the citronella lamps, or some other features that will take care of the mosquitoes. If you choose the citronella, you need to be careful about that, because you don't want that scent to overpower that wonderful fragrance that you're going to get from your night bloomers that you're going to put in that garden. But fairy lights are really, really neat to put in a moon garden, just the little tiny fairy lights, or the patio lights. that give off the soft glow. If you do choose lights that are the LED that give off that more harsh, light, you can use, depending on what kind of light it is, you can put covers over those. In that first picture I showed the luminaries. That's just basically, those were LED lights that they put the white paper bags, the luminary bags, over to soften that light, to give it more of a soft glow instead of that harsh, bright light. And then lanterns are always a good choice. There's lots of different options in lanterns nowadays. I see them a lot in landscaping and on patios, especially in entrances to homes. We use the lanterns. So look at those options as well. But again, you don't have to spend a fortune on lighting. Look around at, like I said, the dollar store, the Dollar Tree, places like that. You really don't have to spend a fortune. So, some moon garden musts. We choose some of these things, some of these plants, because of, again, that foliage. You're looking at the silvery or the blue-gray iridescent looking foliage. In this picture, the Dusty Miller, that's an annual that's going to give you that nice silvery blue-gray color. You want to look at white or pale blooms that are going to, again, reflect that moonlight. Now, they don't always have to be white. You can use a light pink. I do have a yellow, one yellow in my list of plants. But you want the bulk of your plants, whatever you choose, you want them to be able to reflect the moonlight so that you get that glow. And then the evening fragrance. That, I can't stress the fragrance enough, because to me, besides the glow that you get from the moon garden, it's the fragrance. It's the heady, florally fragrance. And we usually find that a lot of times in older variety plants. Some of the plants that our grandparents had, or, great grandparents had in their flower gardens. So you may want to look out, look at some of those older varieties and heirloom varieties. So we'll get into our list of plants. Our first one here, of course, is the moonflower vine, the Ipomoea. It's Morning Glory's nocturnal counterpart. This vine can grow 10 foot or more. It's great for trellises, great for, if you have archways or somewhere where you want to have a vine growing. And in this picture, you see they've also incorporated the lights in with it, which really will enhance the glow on those flowers, especially on a night maybe that the moon isn't as bright. We've got a little bit of cloud cover. The lights will still cause those flowers to glow. The fragrance on this is just a very heady, wonderful florally fragrance. And of course, this is one that's going to attract not only the nocturnal moths, of course, but it will attract bats. So just be aware of that. But most good gardeners know that bats are a good thing to have, because they keep some of our insect populations in check. Some of those mosquitoes may be in check. Another thing that, to encourage some of these nocturnal pollinators, like the bats, is you could actually incorporate a bat house somewhere on your property to help attract those bats in and to have that population. A lot of people are afraid of bats. They're out at night. Again, they keep our insect populations in check. They are pollinators. They're good for our gardens. So, attracting them is not such a bad thing. This is the yellow one, the evening primrose, just the normal run-of-the-mill, your yellow primrose. You want to plant it in full sun. It is not flowering. It will, again, open up at night, close in the morning. It is a biennial, so it takes 2 years to complete its life cycle, which can be a plus to some degree, because my discretionary on this is it can get a little invasive. So you want to be careful with the evening primrose. It has a really nice lemon scented bloom. Very, very soft lemon scent. It's not overpowering. 4 o'clocks. I really like 4 o'clocks. These are to me an old-fashioned flower. My grandparents always had 4 o'clocks growing around their little farmhouse, but they will remain open from dusk until dawn. They are a tender perennial, so we often use these as annuals in the garden, and they will get quite tall, 2 to 3 feet, for a tender perennial or an annual. So they do get a little tall, and they will spread just about as much, 2 to 3 feet. But they make a great backdrop in your moon garden to put up against a fence, or again, a trellis or another structure like that. You can put those behind some of your lower growing plants. And another thing I do want to comment on, when you're choosing your plants to go in these moon gardens, you want to make sure that you do choose plants that you're going to have a bloom all through the growing season. So make sure you look at that, and you're going to have blooms throughout that growing season, because you don't want to plant a moon garden and all of your flowers be done by the 1st of August, and then because a lot of these will last all the way through the fall. So make sure that you do look at that. Sweet alyssum. It is an annual that is used quite a bit. We use it a lot, or I do, in containers. It's great to be used as a border plant for flower beds in rock gardens. It does perform better in cool weather. However, I believe there are some newer varieties that will are a little bit more heat tolerant. And when they start blooming, they're just a mass of these little tiny white thimble-shaped blooms, and they have a wonderful, very light, very sweet aroma, and the wind picks that up, and it's just a really light. It's not overpowering, just a really nice fragrance to have. But if you want to start that first year with just putting border plants out to see how things are going to go, this is one that I would choose to put out to start off with. Now, if you do choose one that isn't real heat tolerant, you may have to go in and replace it, or come in and plant behind it when it fizzles out. But also, that will give you a chance to try out different moon, plants for your moon garden to see how things are going to work out. The flowering tobacco, the nicotiana, these open at twilight. They do have some disease problems similar to the smoking tobacco. So you may get some of the diseases that our tobacco plants would get. But overall, these are, they're really nice plants. They are also a tall growing plant. They have a really nice sweet smell. They do come in different colors. The flowering tobacco, it comes in different colors. So you could add in a light pink with your white and kind of mix those colors up, so that you do have a more vibrant color in that section of the garden during the day. And then you have your white at night. So you might want to, with any of your flowers, look to see if they do come in other colors. The alyssum, I know, comes in the pink and the purple, and then the white. So you may want to intermingle some of those more vibrant colors, so that during the daytime, your area of your moon garden is still pretty. And even though these start to open at twilight, they are open, during the morning hours as well. The angel's trumpet. These are phenomenal. If you've never smelled the angel's trumpet, to me, they are just wonderful. The smell is so sweet, and it's very heady smell. So these are tropical. These, as you can see, have been pruned into a tree form. I have a friend that has, she has 2 or 3 of these trees in big containers. And she is fortunate enough that she is able to overwinter them. She takes them into her garage during the winter, and she's able to keep them through the winter that way protected. And then she will bring them out every year and have them placed strategically in her landscape. And she places hers, she doesn't necessarily have a moon garden, but she does place these close to entryways to her home, so that when you enter her home, you get that nice sweet whiff of the angel's trumpet as you go into her home, or you're sitting on her porch. They have very large blooms. If you've never seen these, they do have a pretty large trumpet-like bloom. Night blooming jasmine. Jasmine is another one of those that, besides the angel's trumpet, the jasmine is a really wonderful, sweet, strong fragrance. It reminds me a lot of a gardenia, or the flowering jasmine, but jasmine and gardenia, those two I kind of equate together. But this one will bloom at night. That's when it really comes to life and opens up, and the scent really gets really, really strong. It will need protection in the winter. This is not hardy in our area, so you will have to protect it in the winter. There are different jasmines, of course, out there. Some of them are day bloomers, and then we have the night blooming. So you might want to look at putting, one of each in your landscape, so that you have some during the day, and then you have the wonderful night blooming as well for your moon garden. Tuberose. Tuberose is a wonderful cut flower as well as a wonderful moon garden flower. It has a very long-lasting sweet fragrance. This one is very comparable to the gardenia. It is a bulb, and it is a tender perennial bulb. So in our area, you would probably either need to put mulch over that bed where you would have that planted at, or to be on the safe side, you would want to dig it up and bring it in and store it, and then plant those back out in the spring. This is just one example of a bulb. There are other bulbs or tubers, plants that you could actually incorporate as well into your moon garden. Phlox. This is a garden phlox. This is the luminary backlight. It's a tall phlox. It's another one of those that you could use in the back of your moon garden flower bed as a backdrop. And you can see in this picture, it has very large heads of the bloom. And they have a nice light fragrance. Now the phlox, this one, of course, is the luminary, but you can get phlox in different colors as well. And so this may be where you want to incorporate some light pink or some other colors in with your white. This variety is disease resistant. Phlox does, some of the earlier phlox had trouble with some powdery mildew and some other diseases, but this one does have a disease resistant package. So you wouldn't have as much problem with diseases. And this one, of course, will bloom all summer, all the way through fall. So again, I can't stress enough about when you're choosing your plants for your moon garden to look at that feature, that you would have blooms all the way through that growing season. Candy tuft. Candy tuft, it to me is one of those, like alyssum, it's one of those old-fashioned type plants. It is more of a ground cover type plant, and it is evergreen. So even in the winter, the blooms are gone, but you do have the nice rich green foliage that will stick around there. And it has, as you can see, the nice full carpety white blooms during the growing season. This is another one that you may want to look at using as a border plant, as a trial for your moon garden if you want to start that first year and just start slow. Again, because it's an evergreen, you know, if you change your mind, you might have to dig this up and move it somewhere else, or just stop with your moon garden, stop at that plant and not proceed any further. Lamb's ear. So lamb's ear is one of those plants. It's a very low growing, compact type plant, but it does like to spread out. It's listed as non-flowering, but lamb's ear does have a nice little purple flower spike that is a very, very sweet scent. But the flower isn't what we're really looking for in the moon garden situation. What we're looking for, as you can see, is that silvery green foliage. And the foliage on the lamb's ear is even, it's got the pubescence on it. It's got the hairy surface to the leaves. So that's what gives it that silvery look. So it adds not only that silvery green color, reflective color, but it also adds something unique, a unique texture to your landscape. And it's beautiful during the day as well as in those evening hours. It does grow better, believe it or not, in a low fertility soil. But again, I want to stress on this one, it will spread out. So you may have to keep it in check. If you put it in a flower bed, it may get a little bit out of its zone. Russian sage. As you can see, Russian sage, it has a purple bloom, those nice purple spikes, but it has that wonderful gray foliage, and the foliage on it is actually aromatic. So that's usually what we're growing the Russian sage for. But when I raised it, I don't have it now, but when I did have it, I grew it because I liked it for cut flower. I like to take it in and put it in vases. And when I did that, of course, then I had that aroma as well. But that foliage is what we're looking for in the relationship to a moon garden. And you can cut this one back. This is a plant that you can go in and just cut it back to the ground, and it will just grow right back out and be nice and full and have those beautiful purple spikes on it. So this is more of it's a perennial. So it would last a lot longer. And the blooming season on this as well is all through the growing season. Artemisia, this is the silver bullet. Again, this is one that we grow for that silvery foliage. And as you can see, the texture on it, it has the very finely cut leaves. So it adds not only that silvery foliage color, but it's going to give us that texture. It does grow pretty fast. You may have to keep it in check as well. And it is heat tolerant and drought tolerant. So this could be a good option, in certain areas of your landscape or in your moon garden with the heat and drought tolerance. But the foliage on this is just, it's exceptional as far as that silvery color. This is another one of the artemisias. This is Silver Mound. It has that very ferny. So we went from finely cut leaves to even finer looking texture with that ferny look with the silver foliage. It grows in clumps. The only problem with this is it does tend to open up in the center. So you may have to kind of keep it pruned to try to keep it to stay full in that center. You do want to prevent this one from flowering. The flower, we don't grow this one really for the flower. We grow it more for the foliage. So if we keep it from flowering, it'll have a better form and it will stay more of in a clump. But you may still have to go in and prune it to keep it from getting that open center on it, the bald center. And Dusty Miller. This is another one of those, to me, it's an old-fashioned annual flower. I can remember growing up, my grandmother and my mother always had a Dusty Miller plant in with their geraniums. That was just the thing back then. But we always had Dusty Miller. It has a nice mounded habit. Excuse me. It is most effective. The Dusty Miller gives off a better show when we do plant it in groups or in masses. So just one plant wouldn't give you the show that you would get if you planted 3 or 4 in a clump. These are really good as well, of course, in containers with some of our other plants. But again, it has just that it has that silvery gray green foliage, and it looks kind of dusty. It looks like it's got white powder on it, so it gives you a nice different texture to your garden as well. Cosmos, this is the Sonata White. There's lots of varieties of Cosmos out there. This one has large blooms. Of course, it's going to be on the really tall stems. The Cosmos will reseed itself. So you may want to, put it in an area where it can have, freedom to reseed and to keep growing. Cosmos is one of those, again, you can get a lot of different colors in the Cosmos. So you could interplant some pinks and some light oranges and different colors like that. They will bloom all through the growing season. They are great. I call them free form growing. They also have that nice fine ferny foliage. Now their foliage is green, but again, it'll add a little texture to your flower beds during the day. And the Datura is beautiful. The problem with it, you have to be very careful, is it is poisonous. It has that spiny fruit, but it has that spectacular 6-inch bloom. But you do want to be careful about, if you use this in your flower beds, about the fact that it is poisonous if you have pets, small children. So that's my plant list. Just to go over, I just wanted to throw in some of our things that do go bump in the night. Some of the things that you might see in your moon garden when you're out there setting and, enjoying it. Here are some of our moths that you might see fluttering around in your moon garden. As you can see, the Luna moth, that's one of my all-time favorites, and I love the rosy maple moth. Of course, I love the rosy maple moth because she's pink. But, there's a lot of different moths. These are just some of the more popular ones that, are unique as far as their body or their markings. So, of course, the Luna moth is so unique because of, I call it the tails it has at the bottom of its wings there, but also because of its sheer size. I know when kids find a Luna moth, they just love it because they're so big and they're just so unique. And you don't see them all the time because they're active at night. The royal walnut moth, he's not real pretty, but he's kind of showy, and he's one of those that you could find again in your moon garden. And it's really neat too if you're out there with kids to start pointing out some of these different insects that you see and explaining to them that we only see these guys usually out at night, and explaining to them how the nighttime hours work for our insect population. And just because we're asleep doesn't mean that Mother Nature is asleep, and it doesn't mean that the insect world is asleep. And then, of course, we have the Sphinx moth down here. So a moonlight garden is pretty by day, but it is one thing that is true enjoyment for us in the evening hours. And it's like, it can be our reward at the end of the day to go out and sit in that moonlight garden and just be still and listen to the flutter of the wings of some of those nocturnal pollinators and listen to that insect community. Now, right now, you might not want to do that because I don't know about you all, but the cicada are just about to deafen us up here. But hopefully we're getting, we're in the middle and on the downhill swing pretty soon of the cicada. But anyway, just going out into that moonlight garden, enjoying that peaceful time. It's the place where you could go and unwind after, a hard day at school or at work, or just, just before it's time to turn in for the evening, just going and just calming your body and letting your senses just enjoy that moment and relaxing before, it's bedtime. And that is all I have today on Moonlight Gardens. So I guess I will take questions now.
Thank you, Lori. I enjoy the Moonlight Garden as well. uh, um, so far what's in the chat was an individual said something about the firefly petunias.
Okay, I did not put those in my talk, but I'm assuming they're talking about the petunias that are the new variety that glows at night. I haven't actually been able to see any of those, but those would be really good to put into your moonlight garden. They would be, just another spectacular plant to put out there to send off that glow, and also be a great conversation piece.
The individual said the price that he had seen was $29.95 for a 3.5-inch pot.
Yes.
Plus shipping.
Yeah. And that is probably the reason why I haven't seen any.
Yes.
Hopefully, if that picks up in popularity, the hope is, of course, that price will start to come down. I haven't seen any on our markets here. I'm assuming mail order is probably the only way. I don't know if anybody out there has seen them in any of the garden centers.
I haven't, but maybe some others have. Any questions? Please feel free to type them in or unmute yourself. Have you found some other white petunias, though, too, would work as well?
Just the regular white petunias would work. Using those, you don't get they don't have that nice sweet fragrance, but they do have the white bloom, and it will reflect that moonlight, and it'll have a glow. Really, any plant with the white bloom or that silvery gray green foliage is going to give off that glow in the moonlight. Now, when I say moonlight, the full moon is what we're looking for. Again, that's why I usually try to encourage people to add lighting into their moon gardens, because we don't always have nice, clear moonlit nights. I don't know about you all, but up here in northeastern Kentucky, we are hazy right now from the wildfires smoke coming down from Canada. So while it's sunny, it is hazy. So it's, and it's not really pretty at night right now.
There is a question. Are citronella candles safe around honeybees?
As far as I know, they are. I don't know of any reason why they would not be. The citronella, I don't know of any reason why they would not be, because the honeybee is probably not going to go towards it anyway because of the heat. So.
And they're going to be inside when you light the candle.
Exactly.
A lot of thank yous, and can't wait to get started. So great inspiration.
Good. And I'll send this PowerPoint. Do you want me to send it to somewhere?
Kelly. Send it
Kelly?
to Kelly.
I'll send that to Kelly.
Oop, I've fallen down on the job again.
Well, I had to pass over the scepter to Amy. My Zoom is coming in and out, so it was scaring me a little. It always came back, but I was afraid I was going to lose you and everyone was going to lose connection. So, but I will tell you that next week we're going to talk about uh, ancient water uses, ways to help with drought and water and conserving water, but it's going to be the ancient methods. So tune in.
And Sharon's teaching that. The week after that, we've got wreath making for all seasons. And then
Ooh.
our lovely Annette is going to do making a terrarium. So we've got June all filled out.
Who's doing the wreath making?
Kara
Kara? Oh, that'll be nice.
Back Campbell.
And the terrarium.
Yeah.
These are some really good programs.
Thank you. We've worked hard to recruit.
Yeah.
And then we'll be off on the week of the 4th of July holiday, but that's a month out. We're good.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Y'all have been wonderful today.
Well, I hope everybody learned something.
I think they did. They're awful quiet not to have learned something. Or they're furiously writing down lists and sketching out on a napkin where they can put their next moon garden. Anything else? Can you talk about disease impact on tobacco?
Well, on the tobacco flower.
On the Nicotiana, yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about.
Now, the only thing when I have grown that, I have really not had much trouble with it. You know, I'm not a smoker, so you know, a lot of people don't realize if you're a smoker and you handle the cigarettes, you can actually, if that tobacco that is in that cigarette had tobacco mosaic virus or any of the diseases tobacco gets, you can actually transfer that to your plants. That happened to me once when I went and bought some tomato plants. They all had tobacco mosaic virus because the guy that transplanted was a smoker. But I've gotten a little bit of powdery mildew on those, but honestly, I've really not had much trouble with a tobacco plant.
Sometimes if you're in a place where there was tobacco grown, you can get like black shank.
Yes.
But the patches were so small, and it's been 20 years since a lot of tobacco has been grown in the state, so it's probably not a big
Right.
problem. The other thing is you might get some tobacco hornworms on there.
Well, yeah, you might get those.
But then they turn into big moths, so you know, as long as they're not on your tomato plants, I think you're okay. And she asked, does the tobacco plant affect other plants?
The tobacco diseases?
Yeah.
No. Most of the tobacco diseases, well, the powdery mildew, there's different strains of that, but a lot of them are tobacco host specific. So,
Or like what if you have a vegetable garden, you're growing peppers, tomatoes,
yeah,
those
right.
kind of things. Yeah, they'll swap
Yeah, they'll
sometimes,
swap.
but not normally.
Yeah.
And hopefully your vegetable garden is a little farther away from your moon garden.
Flower garden.
Although sometimes I have, picked tomatoes at 9 o'clock at night when it's dark.
Well, and you know, some people incorporate vegetables into their flower gardens, so that may be something you do want to keep in the back of your mind.
True. Good rotations.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Okay. Annette, are you? I didn't know if you were still here or not.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good.
You just caught it before I did.
Okay. Like, what? Anything else? All right. I think I think Sharon has left us for good. Well, if I don't hear any more questions, you can unmute yourself if you want. If not, we'll say see you next week. Thank you, Lori, for doing this. We really appreciate it.
No
If you have
problem.
another topic that you're willing to teach, we'll be happy to have you.
Well, I'll see what I've got in my bag of tricks.
All right. Let me know. We got some dates closer to September.
Okay. I'll
All
look
right.
and see.
All righty. Well, everybody, we'll see you next time. See you next week.
See ya.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh. Oh. I just had to text a couple people in the waiting room, so I'll see everybody then.
All right. Bye.
Bye.